Hello, this is Sun Tzu, and I'm here with Admirable, who will be casting the Hearthstone tournament here at DreamHack. First things first, you started out as a player for the game. How has the transition to casting and analyzing, how has that been for you?
Well, I'm still a player, of course, and, but going over to casting, it was like really natural for me. It was really easy, and part of that is because I just have such a deep experience with card games like this. So with those card games, I played poker, I played Magic. I've done coaching for both of those games as well. So a lot of that coaching experience, you're sitting down with one-on-one time, you're verbalizing with people, and you're expressing your thoughts. And not only that, but you're helping them break down their thoughts and then rebuild those foundations for them as well. So when I'm coming into like a casting, it's kind of the same thing. I'm just doing a generalized coaching. So with all the streaming experience I have and so on and so forth, it was very natural to just come into it and explain thought processes and present the game to people. And frankly, it's something I just really love to do.
Yeah, definitely. We've seen like many of these pro players mention that after watching you cast them play, you've literally got their thought process exactly right. How gratifying is that to get that confirmation that I actually understand these guys so well?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say that it's like gratifying to me at this point. Like I expect to be doing well when I play. I expect to know these players' thought processes, and the reason is because I practice so much. So when I come in, if I get a thought process wrong, that's possible. But I feel like from my perspective, it's not like unlikely because I'm seeing it like to predict what they do is a different story, but to be able to break down what they're doing and why they're doing it, that's much easier because you can see it. Like every play they make tells a story, and so when they've done it in such a certain order and it comes to that point, it's easy for me to see that and then read. It's like a language almost, and I just know how to read that very well.
Yeah. There's also like much of Hearthstone right now is being played and then casted from replays. This right now is going to be played live. Does that put any extra pressure on you in terms of how you like approach this particular event?
Well, for most of the pre-recorded stuff, the games themselves are pre-recorded, but the production's not pre-recorded. So like when I did Tavern Takeover, we're casting that live. So if we say something incorrect or we mess up or stumble over words, that's just going to be out there. Like if I just start cussing, there's no way for them to really stop it. That it's just like to break off what's already been done. So coming into this one, it's going to feel kind of the same way to me. Like there may be, I think there's more potential for hiccups and things like that. But Deck Wars is live. I've done some Deck Wars stuff. It doesn't necessarily. I don't feel like any more pressured to do it because, as far as I'm concerned, I'm the one who's doing it live. So it's just what I've always done.
Yeah. Also, as someone who does these tournaments, who helps organize them and helps cast them, there's been a lot of talk about getting more of these tournament futures into the game. What are the futures that you would like to see most of all?
I think that something everyone wants to see, and myself included, is a Swiss breakdown. It's kind of tough to have like a big tournament like this and leave it at like single or double elimination. It's so much pressure from the player's perspective to make such a commitment to come to a weekend like this. I mean, you're at DreamHack, you're going to have fun, but if you're a player whose purpose to coming here is literally just to play the tournament, it puts a big damper on the idea that you could come out here in one or two unlucky rounds and you're completely out of the tournament. So Swiss, I think, gives you a unique opportunity in that you can have like day two transitions, and it allows you to have larger field sizes in a more controlled manner. There's a lot more games going on, but that's not necessarily a bad thing because if you're coming all this way to play in something, you want to play more rounds as well. So I think Swiss is something that everyone wants to see, but of course Observer Mode is something that everybody really wants to see coming out of it. But that being said, I think a lot of people have done fantastic jobs with what they have now, and I think that Blizzard is going to take a lot of that and really implement. I think they want to take their time with Observer Mode because they want to get it right.
One of the great balancing features that Magic the Gathering competition has is the sideboard. What do you think about the possibility of adding a sideboard to Hearthstone competitions?
Well, Hearthstone kind of has an already built-in sideboard with the mechanics of these tournaments are going. It's just different classes. So like when you win with a class, I feel like you should have to stick with that class. I think that's an okay thing to have. And then your deck lineup, how you choose to build 3 decks instead of 1 deck and then a 15-card sideboard really is impactful. And another thing to take into consideration is something with like Magic. 24 to 28 slots can often be dedicated to something like land. So you're only looking like a 32-card deck anyway. So when you have a 15-card sideboard, you're really looking at about a 40 to 50-card pool that players have of actual cards to play with. And in a tournament, even if you're only playing a best of 3, you're seeing a 60-card pool being used between those 2 decks. So I think that sideboard is something that is necessary for physical games, but with a game like Hearthstone, sideboard isn't necessary. And I think that because of that, it ends up kind of creating not only a more diverse format, but it creates a more like entertaining experience from the viewer's perspective as well.
Yeah. Now, talking about the tournament that's coming up here, of these guys who are playing, is there anyone that you find particularly fun to play or to watch play? Someone who has these fun little ideas, little tweaks, techs that they do in their decks. Is there anyone that stands out for you?
Well, there's all these guys are professionals that are seeded, and there's a lot of professionals even that are in the open bracket. So there's a lot of unique things that are coming into it. I think honestly, like, I'm very open and honest with my opinions on people, and one of the ones that I've been most open and honest with is Team Tempo Storm's deck building. I think their deck building is way ahead of pretty much everyone else. I think there's another thing to be said for some of their mechanics, but they picked up hype. They've been practicing a lot. That's something that's just going to improve as you build a team. But their deck building is just, it's always so interesting to me because they have such different takes on stuff, and it's not like their different take is sort of like, oh, that's pretty interesting. It's like their different take is like, whoa, that's really good. So I'm always looking forward to seeing more lists from them. But again, a lot of teams have been forming. Like you got some root players, Liquid Hearth. They're being represented here. Curse is being heavily represented. It wouldn't surprise me to see any of these players coming in with new and unique stuff, especially when you have to fight through a 256 bracket. And then also the influence from the seeded bracket. How do they choose to build their decks differently because they're playing against a smaller pool of people?
Going into this event, like we all know, Rogue is the bane of everyone's existence right now. Which deck is best suited to counter that right now?
Probably another Rogue deck. So like Miracle Rogue, like Backspace, he's been second on NA and 12th on NA in back-to-back seasons. So he made an aggro Rogue deck that just wipes the floor with Miracle Rogue. So that deck is a really good counter to it, but it takes up your Rogue slot. So if you play that, now you can't have Miracle Rogue. So it's sort of like there's a pro and a con to it in that sense. But aggro decks typically do really well against Miracle Rogue. Something like Zoo doesn't do as well because it's more of a board control style. It relies on buffs to take advantage of the board. But something like even Aggro Hunter or like Druid with 2 Force of Natures and 2 Savage Roar can put a lot of pressure on Miracle Rogue. So the main thing is to be considering is that you just want to be having a resilient board presence and you want to consistently be dealing damage and have a big burst plan around the turn 7 to 8 mark before they're able to kill you with Leroy Jenkins.
If there was one card that's not that commonly seen, but that you think might have a place sort of pop up in this meta as a surprise, what card might that be?
You see a lot of play from Wild Pyromancer, but honestly it's pretty rare. But right now it's sort of in one of those spots where I feel like it could be really well positioned. It wouldn't be a surprise to me to see quite a few Wild Pyromancers coming out in this tournament. And then with the way that these kind of decks are evolving, it wouldn't be surprised to me to see them on ladder either. So if I had to pick a card that is not standard to use, it would probably be Wild Pyromancer.
Okay, cool. I think that's going to be it for us, and I'll wish you good luck, and we'll see ya.